If you're not paying yourself properly right now, I do get it. I felt underpaid for many years in my own business. And I told myself it was temporary and that it was an investment into the business. And to some extent that's true, but at some point the business has to invest back into you. The agency owners who pay themselves the least are usually the ones working the most. I know it sounds backwards, but if you're building an agency and you're feeling underpaid for your efforts, this one is for you. I want to talk about owner pay today, not the accounting side of things, the actual reason that this keeps happening. Because I see this all the time. The owner carries the most weight, they're working long hours, they're carrying the risk, and often they're not the highest paid in the business. And I resonate with this because I've been in the exact same position. And for a long time, I told myself that the business came first, that I'd pay myself properly once things started to settle down, once we landed the next client, and once margins improved. And that day kept on moving. So here are the 5 reasons that this happens. Because if you've been around me for long enough, you'll know that I'm big on building self-awareness. And once you're aware of anything, you can actually do something about it. All right, so point 1, your pay is optional, and that's the problem. The owner pays everybody else first. Suppliers, payroll, software, all of it goes out, and then if there's something left over, the owner might draw it out of the business. But there's never anything left, is there? Because your expenses expand to fill whatever comes in. And skipping your pay doesn't make the business more stable. It just hides the real problem, which is that the model doesn't actually work yet. Your salary is an operating cost. It's the same as everybody else on the team, and it should go into the budget. It goes out every month, non-negotiable. If the business can't sustain your pay, then that's what you have to fix, not your salary. Okay, point 2, you don't actually know what you're earning. A lot of agency owners don't have a clear line between what the business makes and what they personally take home. Money comes in, money goes out, and then somewhere in the middle, they're pulling what they need. And the problem is that you never really know what you're earning. You don't know if the business is even profitable, and you don't know if your lifestyle is being funded by genuine margin or by cash that should be sitting in the business. I've spoken to agency owners clearing $1 million in revenue who couldn't even tell me what they paid themselves last year. And this isn't because they were hiding it, it was just really blurry. And when it's blurry, that often means it's random, could be less than you think, and could cause all sorts of tax nightmares. So give yourself a salary that's fixed, that you pay yourself every month, and treat it just like everyone else's. In addition, you can apply a mechanism to draw any profits above a certain level, or draw from surplus cash reserves once you've built up enough. This will change how you see your entire business, and it will motivate you and reward you appropriately. Okay, so point 3, you're doing 5 jobs and you're paying yourself for none of them. The agency owners who underpay themselves are almost always the ones doing the bulk of the work. Client work, team management, sales, proposals, deliverable reviews, partnership meetings, support emails, networking, and the list goes on. But they don't have the salary to match. And the reason is delegation, or the lack of it. When you hold on to tasks, it's often because it's faster to do it yourself, or because you feel that nobody else can quite get it right like you can. So you become the bottleneck. And a bottleneck doesn't get paid more, it just gets more work. I've talked before about a founder task audit, where you note down everything you do and start asking the question, does this actually need to be with me? Most founders, when they go through that, honestly find that a huge chunk of their week has no business being on their plate. Every hour spent there is an hour not spent on the work that actually moves things forwards. And that's where the time goes. That's why the pay never comes. Okay, point 4, you're chasing revenue, not profit. A big month can feel like progress, and winning a new client can feel like momentum. We all get that. And when we see this everywhere, LinkedIn, YouTube, 50K months, 100K months, $1 million months, great headlines, but it doesn't actually mean anything if there's no profit at the end of it. And honestly, it's pretty clear when you're around people that actually do those numbers, the lifestyles that you see on some of these people just don't match. Because revenue without margin is just noise. And that's because the cost of delivering that revenue just eats almost all of the cash in the business, and they're left with the scraps. The question isn't how much are you billing, it's how much are you keeping. There's a time for growth, but the key to freedom is keeping profit. And the answer isn't always more clients. Sometimes it's cutting the ones that cost you the most to actually serve. Sometimes it's about raising prices. Sometimes it's adjusting the delivery model. Profit is what actually funds your take home and your freedom. Revenue just funds the appearance of having it. And lastly, point 5, somewhere along the line, you became a safety net. This is the one where we have to be honest. When an owner consistently skips their own pay to keep things running, they're effectively subsidizing the business with their own money and their own time. The business doesn't have enough margin and the owner absorbs it. The team needs paying, the owner goes without. A client churns, cash gets tight, and the owner is the first one to cut their salary to prop up those numbers. And this, done enough, becomes a habit. The business cycles through the same process, and over time this becomes a subconscious pattern, and you're teaching yourself and the business that it doesn't need to be profitable because you'll always be there to backstop it with your free labor. And that's not sustainable, and it's not always a cash flow problem either. Sometimes it's a design problem, and it requires tight rules to prevent it from happening. So if you're not paying yourself properly right now, I do get it. I felt underpaid for many years in my own business, and I told myself it was temporary and that it was an investment into the business, and to some extent that's true, but at some point the business has to invest back into you. Your pay is not a luxury, it's a signal, and it tells you whether your business is actually working. So lock in a set salary in your budget and think about the rules you'll apply to draw based on performance to keep you motivated and rewarded for the work that you're putting in. And then figure out what needs to change to make those numbers hold. Because the goal is never to work more for less, it's to build a business that buys back your freedom. If you found this one useful, please hit subscribe and give me a follow. I talk about my journey, 12 years of agency ownership from starting on my coffee table to a life-changing exit. And the insights I've also picked up from coaching agency owners to cut their hours in half and double their pay. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.